You're actually forcing me to kind of relive.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
To relive. I don't think I've shared some of this, with anyone because,
That's why you're on this show. I'll switch that some more.
because you want to be in my business. That's why.
Absolutely. I woke up today and said I want to be in Hannah K's business. No, I think your story I knew was going to inspire so many people because you're not coming from, a traditional or a typical. I don't want to use the word typical like everybody else,
Right.
because I understand because I came to this country when I was 7, so I know the relatable that. For me,
did you come on the plane or a boat?
I actually walked here on water. Jesus, get it? Me and Jesus kind of, please. All right. Good day, good people. Today is a very painful day. I am interviewing or having a conversation with a dear friend of mine. Has been a pain in my for the past 20-something years. I sound so depressed at this interview. I don't even know where this is gonna go. Nah, we have today. I'm still gonna call her Miss Hannah K, but she has these newfound names. And she is a fiance now, so she probably wants me to say Miss Future
Campbell. Yes.
Miss Future Campbell.
Yes. The future Mrs.
The future
Campbell.
Miss Campbell. Nate,
Yes.
I pray for you already. It's gonna be a long ride, but let's get into it. So welcome, Hannah K.
Thank you.
Hannah, also her new stage name is Hannah. So this is gonna my goal for this conversation is to enlighten people, give them some wisdom, and talk about the trial and error in life that you go through as a leader, entrepreneur, whatever title it is. Just and then what does the outcome look like of not giving up?
Okay.
Through all the processes. So I want to start from the beginning.
The hallways of Harding High School?
No, we're gonna go even
not that
we're
far.
Gonna start
okay.
from the jungle of that you're. No, we're gonna start from born and raised where. So and also I gotta do this conversation and if you're like I don't know nothing about you,
right?
So I could let other people into our world.
Okay,
that I do know. So born and raised where?
Okay, born in Jamaica.
What part of Jamaica?
I was born in Kingston, but I was raised in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth.
Okay.
But I came to this country when I was very young, when I was about 6. So born and partially raised in Jamaica, and when I came to
when you say Kingston and St. Elizabeth, what's the difference?
Kingston actually had a hospital. No.
That's a real thing.
No.
There's a difference.
And you know what? I think I may have aged myself.
So there was no hospital in Is St. Elizabeth more country? More
it is. It's more rural.
More rural.
We're gonna say rural country. Right. It's more rural. Yes.
So what was it like growing up there? Did you grow up with both parents? Did you grow up with grandma? Did you grow up with like family? I know also island family in these countries is everybody's in the house.
Right. It is. It's a village, literally. Right. Yeah. Which you know of. Absolutely. Being that you came from a village of your own.
Yes.
In Haiti. Gotcha. Right. So from what I remember from my childhood, I had a very privileged kind of childhood for the childhood that I had in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. My aunt Valerie, she had a successful position at one of the banks. So like I remember my room being pink, like I had a lot of like pink princessy stuff. I remember we had a housekeeper, we had a maid.
The good life in the island.
The good life in the island. Yes. Sometimes, when people, when you see some of these shots of like the islands being like total poverty stricken and stuff, that's not the case, all the time. But from what I remember, we had a beautiful home, beautiful yard where we had fruit trees and everything. And as a matter of fact, Patrick Ewing is my grandmother's second cousin. So that's where the height comes from in
Wow.
our family. So my grandmother's maiden name is Ewing. And then she got married and it was Frazier. So the women in our family, the women and most of the men in our family are pretty tall.
Oh.
And that's due to, we had some tall people in the family. So growing up, I want to say I would get in trouble if I got dirty. So it was when I came to the US and became a tomboy.
You could hang out and do whatever you
so
want.
when I was in Jamaica, I wasn't running barefoot. I wasn't, nope. I remember having to go to school, put my uniform on. As soon as I hit the door, the maid, the helper, her name was Pauline. She would, get me right into the room. And she would take off my school clothes and put me in like yard clothes, but the yard clothes were like fancy clothes too.
So you really couldn't really go out and play like you want.
Right. I didn't know how to climb trees. I can't relate. Climb trees and stuff. So you make
it seem like I'm just out here climbing trees. But.
I mean, I'm just saying it's a skill. But I wasn't allowed to get dirty in Jamaica, but when we came to the US and being more Americanized, that's when, we
more free to be a kid.
A little bit more free to be a kid, to play sports, run in the park, get dirty, ride your bikes over to, we really rode our bikes like clear across town and our parents had no idea.
Trust me, I know that for sure. So when you guys came up here, you were brother, sister, who did you come up here with first?
So my grandmother was here first, and she paved the way for my mom to come here. My mom actually left us in Jamaica. My mom left me when I was 3 months, and she left me with my dad. I don't know what the events were where I left my dad's and went to stay with my aunt, but and
you're not gonna know, because one thing about our family is they don't go and tell you why they did things.
Right. So I do remember, like, I'll never forget that day where my older sister Tanisha and I we were put on a plane, get to the US, and we came up. It was cold. It was wintertime, and I don't know who thought it was a good idea to have us. And when we were younger, they used to match us like we were twins.
Mm-hmm.
We came up. We had on shorts with the little.
How old is she? She's older than you.
Not that much older. My sister's 3 years older than me. So, but don't tell her that. She swears she's my mother.
Of course, as she should.
But we came up. We had on the jelly slippers. Mm-hmm. We had on shorts, and we had on little tank tops, little shirts, like little girl stuff. And when we landed, there was like white stuff falling from the sky, and we're like, "What's that?" And the people on the plane, they were like, "It's snow." And we were like, "Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It's so pretty." And when the airplane door opened up and that cold hit us, like,
you guys came in there with jellies like it was still
like
summer.
It was summer. Like I don't know who
had the bright idea.
I don't know who dropped the ball. Somebody dropped the ball.
On sending kids.
We had no coat, no nothing. And then we're in the plane, and the plane is nice and warm, and you see this magical snow swirling around outside.
Little do you know.
Little did we know.
You were walking into a whole blizzard.
Listen.
So I think for me, because my brother and I came here, but did you go by yourself and you guys had like somebody flying with you, or?
No, we flew by ourselves. And and a family member, I believe, met us at the airport and, and drove to Connecticut. And like, I'll always ask my mom this, of like all the places like in the world, like why Connecticut? Like, you fly and you come into Florida, Atlanta, these places, they're so warm and they're so nice.
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking?
When you looked at the map that it said Queens, was that how you figured it out?
Right, like she followed Prince Hakeem's playbook.
Yeah, it was like
my queens. I'm bringing my daughters who are queens to Queens, and
100%.
Right.
But so then, how was that transition for you? Were you like, was it an exciting time for you? Was it a fearful time? Like that transitioning from Jamaica to the U.S. and leaving your father now, or your family down there, coming up to live with your mom, was it an exciting time? How did you feel around that time?
when I think back, it was just more so like just the little things like you guys call hot chocolate here. You know, in Jamaica we call it tea or chocolate tea, or you
Mm.
know, the snacks were different.
So you was already looking at this when you were 6 coming up, those little things, those little details?
Yes. They they were just things that we were used to, simple things back home that we were used to as kids. Like you guys call them Cheetos or cheese puffs. We call them cheese tricks. Like it's just,
Mm.
you know, from what I can remember. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it was just more so like, well, why they call them that? It's called, you
Right.
know. But yeah, just little things like that. But it was when we came here, the first school that I went to was Columbus. And I want to say being 6 or 7 at the time, you kids are just kids at that age.
Right.
I didn't really start, you know, getting to the difficult part of being a kid until I was maybe like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, because I still had my accent. And being that I didn't grow up, you know, in like a poor community, the way that I speak now, I spoke like this when I was 5, 6, and 7. I enunciated everything. So I got made fun of it. I got
You got
made
picked
fun of
on.
in school. Yeah. And it's like, and when you think back, it's like what kids used to make fun of, what kids used to make fun of, you know, back then. It's like, well, that was so dumb. You know, you make fun of someone that, you know, that enunciates, that speaks clearly, that, you know, speaks concisely. But, you know, being a kid, then you don't understand that. And it was very hurtful. So I got to a point in my younger years and where I would fight because, you know, kids would make me feel horrible for speaking properly. I didn't speak with any slang. There was no yo or what, or that wasn't in my vocabulary. And it made me feel like something was wrong with me at a younger age. So what I used to do was my grandmother, God rest her soul, in the evenings she used to watch I forgot which one came on first, but Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and then Dateline would come on a little bit later. But I would sit in front of them. My grandmother would be sitting on the bed, and you know, back then, you know, the Caribbean people, their beds are like 5 miles off the floor.
Right. Yes.
And she had the bedspread with the tiger on it,
Especially with the biggest headboards in the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would sit, and sometimes I didn't even think she would know that I was in the room because the bed was so high and I was so little. So I'm sitting on the floor, and Alex Trebek is, saying these words, and I'm mouthing the words with him on Dateline, or when I'm watching the evening news with her. I'm enunciating until I learned. I learned to speak American. So
the dialogue, dialect, whatever
right.
the word is.
So so going into, high school and so forth, it's like, and it's so crazy that what I got made fun of for in elementary school and high school, people looked, my friends and my teachers looked at it like, oh, wow, it was like a breath of fresh air having, a 13, 14-year-old coming in and speaking really great, proper English, to the point where when I would tell someone, hey, I'm Jamaican, they're like, what? Because and there's people that, and back then, that was when, for some strange reason, everybody wanted to be Jamaican. Like, remember you too, right?
No, that's
yeah. But like, remember, like back in high school, like nobody wanted to be Haitian, but Jamaican was the thing to be. But here it is. I tried so hard to get out of the mold of that, and Americans and other kids were like, oh, well, I'm Jamaican, but right. Whatever.
So you think your sister, you believe, had the same difficulty when she came up also, or?
I don't think so, because my sister, she was always a tomboy. So she, and as I said, she was educated and so forth, but she was a little bit cooler than I was. So she kind of fell right into, the kids that played sports and played street soccer and so forth. I actually didn't get into sports until my freshman year in high school. But
is it part of your upbringing, you believe, that you didn't really get into the sports side because of, you have to be the prissy girl.
Right. So the way how I was brought up, like princess, like don't get dirty, don't get like I remember like before I realized how fun it was when I came here, I would sit on the porch and watch her like in the streets, with the boys playing, and I'm like, oh, ew, you're getting dirty. Oh, you got cut, like So and it wasn't until I got to I don't know if you remember, but I was at that awkward age where my legs were taller than my body. Like I was.
Keep going. I'm gonna leave that alone.
So I was being looked at like this running machine, or so that's when I realized, like, oh, like you can run, you can, you
could be an athlete, and it's
right,
okay.
and it was fine. So I kind of forgot what you asked me that made me go off on a tangent.
I think for me it was just like her upbringing. Like, how did she? Was she getting picked on also? Was it just like in the whole house?
I don't remember that. I just remember her coming and just making friends instantly.
She fit in.
And then for some strange reason, when we were kids, it seemed like our ages were so far apart.
Yeah, those 3 years.
Right.
You're a freshman. She's a senior.
Right. She literally treated me like I was like the baby sister. And in hindsight, when we're older now, it's like, not that much older than me. Like,
right.
But yeah, I just remember her just being really popular and, making friends in the neighborhood and so forth. And I'm just still over here playing with my dolls and stuff. And
right.
Right.
So then getting into high school, you said teachers started looking at, people started recognize you articulating your word, and it was more I guess it was more accepting in those environments. Was there a teacher that took you in to make you feel that it was okay? Or was just overall?
I want to say it was overall, but I remember my fifth grade teacher, Mr. Zeller, and that was at Roosevelt School. And then my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. DePass, she made the best snickerdoodle cookies. You like snickerdoodle cookies?
Yeah, but I didn't have no teacher making me snicker.
Oh my goodness. Like, yeah, she would make snickerdoodle cookies like every Friday and bring them in. And we love going to
I don't know, because I didn't have that growing up in Bridge. I don't know what schools you went to.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, that's you. That's what I only could expect.
So I went to Columbus, then left Columbus, went to Curiel for a little while, and then left Curiel and went to Roosevelt.
And they make snickerdoodles.
She made snickerdoodle cookies.
Yeah, the kids that I know from Curiel or Columbus, they didn't have snickerdoodles. So you had the different life. But.
That's where I found out. I didn't know anything about snickerdoodle cookies because back then it was either chocolate chip or oatmeal. And to this day, snickerdoodle cookies are my favorite cookies.
Was it like a supporting thing because they showed you love with that, and that's like a comforting thing now?
I mean, I would say no, because that means you're saying like I look to food for comfort. No, I just like the cookie.
The setup of all setup. That's not even. If you think a man like me is thinking that deep into the cookie, you got it all wrong. So going into high school, being a Jamaican girl from Jamaica, what was that experience like? Was that where you started learning more about yourself? Was it like how smooth a transition was high school for you?
I want to say that in high school, I wouldn't say it wasn't that much of a transition because I was shy, but I was vocal. Does that make sense? Like I was a little shy, but
you're able to speak up for yourself.
Speak for myself. So I want to say that I'm going to say no, because remember, before high school, I was trying to like run away from my Jamaican culture. I actually don't think I don't think I fully embraced my Jamaican culture or where I came from until college. And that's like a whole nother story in itself. But remember in like elementary school leading up to high school, I was kind of ashamed of, being Caribbean or, and then again, in hindsight, when I tell people I'm Jamaican, they look surprised, like, well, I don't hate, like, where's your accent? I'm like, well, you haven't made me upset.
Definitely will hear it then, yes.
Right. So, no, I don't think there was much of a transition because being a young girl, I remember trying to distance myself so far from like that culture. And then now when I look about it in hindsight, it's such a beautiful culture.
Absolutely.
Like I try to travel to Jamaica like twice a year. It's like
It's everything.
I love the culture.
So going, because I know a little bit more about the high school you went to and the community that we grew up in. So speak a little bit about that, because where you are today, was that influence from growing up in Bridgeport, do you believe? Or where did you get your inspiration from? Because the high school that we went to was not the top of, well, you also went to Health Magnet.
Yes, we were in the Health Magnet. Yeah.
Not we.
Yeah.
I
Right.
thought
you were in regular.
Whoa.
You were in regular?
I don't need the detail.
You were in regular Harding.
So but growing up in Bridgeport, speak a little bit about the hardship for people that don't know. Because it's not normal to be where you are and in conversation in our community. So what was the pros and cons of growing into Hardin?
I want to say that also depends on the individual, because
Absolutely.
you can grow up in an environment and choose to adapt that, that mindset and just not grow, or it just literally depends on the individual. You have to want more for yourself and want more for your family. And I want to say that in our era of being in high school and so forth, I did have teachers that pushed me, Miss Nocerino, Mrs. Flynn, Dr. Goldstone. I could, and forgive me if I leave anyone out, but in my years in high school, it wasn't just a typical, just go to school and, get what you need and get out. I think that I think they really planted seeds of, because, and forgive me if I'm jumping around in the timeline, but no one really, I didn't think beyond high school or college back then. Like I had no idea of what the world really was. I felt like even though I got a lot, I was still underprepared in a lot of ways. I think I was very sheltered in a lot of ways. I think a lot of hard truths that I learned, I kind of stumbled into them. And again, there's a lot of reflection, being in the position that I'm in now, being the age that I am. You really reflect back like, oh, wow, this is why I'm getting the explanation for something that happened at 18 or something that I heard when I was 15,
Did the shelter come from your parents?
The shelter came from well, I was raised coming into the country here. I was raised solely by my grandmother, because I believe that my mom at the time, she was still learning. So she just worked a lot. She worked a lot. So a lot of what I learned from my coming up was from my grandmother. So I want to say that's why I think I'm still so traditional and still so old school with a lot of things, because a lot of those values are like embedded in me from my grandmother.
You and your sister was living with your grandmother, or just
right? It was me and my sister. So it's 4 girls total. So when we came into the country, we were with my mom for a little while, and then I don't know what happened, but we went to spend a weekend with grandma. And then when my mom came to pick us up, we were like, well, we want to stay with grandma. We just like never left. And then during that time, my sister that comes after me, Antoinette, she was born. And then I guess when she was of age, she just kind of joined the mix.
Stay with grandma also.
Right. So I think that, to answer your previous question, it just honestly depends on the individual. And I didn't have anything figured out. Even as I said, a lot of my life's lessons came by things that I kind of stumbled on. And I'm very thankful that I didn't have like those really harsh life lessons. I mean, I had some tough ones, but when you get confronted with issues or any type of friction in your life, what do you do with them? Do you do you learn from them? I try to learn from I think there's a lesson in everything. What do you take from it? And I think that's how I choose to live my life. That's how I teach my children how to live their lives. There's a lesson to be learned in everything.
So a lot of those principles and morals, things you learn, comes from your grandmother.
Uh-huh.
So growing up in the home also with sounds like nothing but women,
Mm-hmm.
and in the leadership of a grandmother, how did she? So her coddling, you think you weren't ready to go outside in the real world with that?
I didn't say my grandmother coddled me. My grandmother, she was a rough woman. She was like, my grandmother was 6'2", and she wasn't like a thin. She was like a solid 6'2". Like when you watch like these old like black and white movies, they call them mammies or whatever. My grandmother she was solid, and there wasn't any babying, or as a matter of fact, like I left all that babying stuff in Jamaica. The princess treatment. When I came to this country, so once the what's the word am I looking for? Once the realization came to me that the snow that we saw outside, it was only pretty to look at when you're inside, and then you head out into the world. It's like life hit me just like that first wind did, and then it opened my eyes to, you're no longer in Jamaica. Like, when was it, like Dorothy, like you're no longer in Kansas City, you look around, and because it was winter, it was dreary. The sky was overcast. You're in New York.
Super gray. You went from the sunny days in Jamaica to gray every day in the Northeast.
Right. There was trash. There was, why are there so many people driving on the highway? In Jamaica, they got one road or two little roads. You on the highway where there's 3 and 4 lanes, and there's traffic, and there are people. It was a little shell shock. And you're actually forcing me to kind of relive.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
To relive. I don't think I've shared some of this, with anyone, because
that's why you're on this show. I'll switch that some more.
Because you want to be in my business. That's why.
Absolutely. I woke up today and said I want to be in Hannah K's business. No, I think your story, I knew was going to inspire so many people, because you're not coming from, a traditional or a typical. I don't want to use the word typical like everybody else,
right?
Because I understand, because I came to this country when I was 7, so I know the relatable that. For me,
did you come on the plane or a boat?
I actually walked here on water. Jesus, get it? Me and Jesus kind of, please. So, but I think for me, what I'm impressed by is the details of that you remember, like the snow and all these little things. Like, I think your insight in detail is impressive.
Let me tell you, our mind is, when they say like your mind is a powerful thing, that's real spit. The way how your mind is able to compress or suppress certain memories or project, it's mind-blowing sometimes when you think about it, because as I said, a lot of this, I'm surprised that I remember even some of the details, because this was definitely so long ago. But your mind, and it's, as I said, it's mind-blowing what you can remember, or even sometimes, like a smell
and a taste for me,
or something that can ultimately bring you back. You watch these movies sometimes where like someone walks and they smell something, and it automatically brings them back to when they were like 5. That shit is real. Can I curse? Can I say that? Oh, okay. It's real.
So for me, the airplane, I remember coming up when I was 7, peanut M&Ms is a thing for me, because I got peanut M&Ms when I was in the plane, and I swear to you, every time I eat it, I think about eating that on the plane when first time me flying up here. So those little things are super true. But I think for me, the fine detail of the snow and how you felt and all those little things, I think I try to block so many things,
right?
Of what I went through in my transitioning. But I think so you said something else. In high school, you weren't really prepared for what was coming. Even though you were in a magnet health program.
Right.
Weren't you guys preparing to be in the health field, or?
Right. So I think a lot of that comes from seeing, because most people that come in from, the islands, the first thing, their parents, like, okay, they're CNAs or they're, they nursing
Absolutely.
homes and so forth. So it wasn't something, I think it was something that was just almost automatic. Um, I didn't want to go to Central because I heard like all the stuck up girls went to Central and I wasn't stuck up. My sister was over at Bassick. And remember, I told you she was like she literally was a superstar over there from track and basketball under Coach Johnson. May he rest in peace. So the only place where I could have gone was and I could have went to tech, but they didn't have they were like a trade school.
Mhm.
And again, it was more so like, oh well, okay, when you graduate, when you're in the health magnet, you can either graduate with your EMT certificate or your CNA certificate. And the reason why I chose the CNA program was that you can work right out of high school.
So your
Whereas
stability was important.
right. So as opposed to being an EMT, you have to wait until you're 21. Um, so I want to say when looking back, my path was always healthcare, but you know, you learn to kind of carve out your own path in life. And being that healthcare, being a CNA or a nurse or whatever, was somewhat of the status quo in the Caribbean household. And then when I got to college and saw that, you know, oh wow, there are different things that you can do, I ultimately kind of ran away from it, only to come full circle back to it. So
What made you so now I'm assuming the exposure you got when you went to college. Where did you go? When you left high school, did you go right into college or
yeah, I actually left early. So we graduated, I think May 26th. I started their summer program the second week in June. I went to St. Leo College right here in Tampa.
okay?
So
How was that transit? Because that's another huge transit from Connecticut to Tampa.
oh my gosh, I got on the plane and I don't re- I don't recall getting on a plane at all during high school. My
Probably
brain
not.
my brain is probably just blocking that out. I don't know. But when I got on a plane, automatically brought me back to when I was coming here.
Yikes.
Right. But when we landed here in Tampa, you come out and like the sun is shining. It's hot. I'm like, oh,
Back to
okay.
Jamaica.
the closest thing to it. Um, Coming here, the highways were big, but it was so clean. It was like different air.
Yeah.
It was different. Um, and going to college, it was more so like I want to say that I think by like my junior year in high school, I was kind of like, love my mom, but she got the hell on my nerves. So it was like, ugh, don't want to go local. I'm going to try to go as far away from home as possible.
Like most people do.
Right. Um, so I got accepted into St. Leo College, and that's where I went. And very, very quickly realized, how real life can get. I remember, and I mean, it wasn't a walk in the park. My first year, actually my second semester, I had to rely on my CNA certificate. I remember, why do I remember this? I remember working at the Royal Oaks nursing home that was like 2 miles down the road, the 11 to 7 shift at night, and then like getting off of there and rolling into like chemistry the next
Wow.
morning.
So you had to get a job to take care of yourself.
I had to get 2 jobs. So I worked there, and then I also worked at the Abbey Tavern in Green. It was a restaurant that was it wasn't considered a part of the campus, but it was across the street from the campus. So I worked a few nights a week there waitressing. And I want to say it's I'm the type of person where I'll do what I have to do uh to make ends meet. But if it's not something that I want to do, I'm not going to do it for long. Right. So it was only a matter of time before, like, lack of sleep, not being able to study. Like, okay, well, you're rolling in from class to work, from work to class. Still found time to party in Ybor City.
Understand.
But it was like, So one day, so again, when you're in college, you kind of have like every penny counts, every dollar counts. And one of the reasons why I got the job at the restaurant was like, okay, well, when I run out of money on my food card, I could just eat at the restaurant, right? So I'm getting paid.
So you're already
right. So I'm not only am I working there getting paid, I could bring home food at the end of the night, right? But I got tired of that. So
where does that mindset come from of just knowing that? That's good thinking. Where does that
I couldn't tell you. It was just more so like, okay,
survival?
well, what, like, okay, I can have more money in my pocket at the end of the week if I'm not spending money on food. The restaurant is right there. Go.
Might as well work it there.
Right there, right? So I was saving money on food. And one day I said, you know what? I don't want their American food. I miss some curry chicken, right? So I went into the community kitchen that was on our floor in the dorm, and I made just a standard pot of curry chicken and white rice. The kids on the floor, students on the floor, was like, oh my gosh, that smells so good. So I realized that by the time I kind of gave this person some, my pot was empty. And I was, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go make some more. But you know what? I'm charging $5 a plate. So I bought the, like the Dixie plate, the
styrofoam.
Yep. And instead of cooking a small pot of rice, I made a big pot of rice and then made a big pot of curry chicken. And I started selling plates every Friday out of the dorm. So when I did that, I said to myself, okay, which job doesn't make sense? The nursing home. So I was able to cut the nursing home, still keep my waitressing job, and I could still eat at the restaurant.
You still got to make sure you get to eat.
Right. But I literally got to the point where I was making $400 or $500 a night, selling those $5. So I would cook and I would have to like wash up and cook again and then the menu expanded from curry chicken to fried chicken or brown stew chicken. And these dishes came from, my grandmother used to wake me up at 4 a.m. most mornings to watch her cook, because my grandmother used to work the 7 to 3 shift at the nursing home. So she would cook dinner, and dinner would be ready by the time she left for work. And
it's a real island home.
She would have me up. I remember her popping me on my knuckles sometimes with the spoon because I'm sleeping.
To come look at her go.
I'd be up, but then I'd be at the table like my head nodding, and she'd be, pay attention. And that's how I learned, that you need to respect the pot, you need to respect the fire. I learned, that my grandmother told me that the pot can tell when you're afraid of it. So, how you see people, they fry chicken, they throw it in there, not realizing. And I that was a good life lesson in itself, because it's like, okay, well, if you throw something into something hot, the trajectory of the meat hitting the pot is only going to bring the oil to you. But if you show that you're not afraid of the pot and you discipline yourself to get as close as you can to the fire and put the meat in the pot.
Respect the pot.
And there you go. So I learned that at a very young age.
So you're talking about in high school, you were waking up early, or was it earlier than that?
Earlier than that. In elementary.
Wow.
I'd be like 8, 9, 10, 11 up.
So do you think that discipline that your grandmother instilled in you that early, it carried you on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without that discipline, I wouldn't have made it in the National Guard. So, funny story behind that. So remember I told you, I'm in college. My major is sports medicine, and my minor is English. I'm cooking on the weekend, so I expanded from Friday to Friday and Saturday. So I'm cooking on Fridays and Saturdays, but I'm also still working 3 nights at the Abbey Tavern in Green. So I'm out for like a jog, and this guy, I see him running. We used to, say hi to each other. He stops one day. He said, "You're a runner," and I said, "Yeah, I ran track in high school." And he says, "You go to St. Leo?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "How would you like, if the military paid for your education?" So I don't
say less. I got it from
wait. So I don't have to cook on the weekends or work at the Abbey Tavern and Green. what do I have to do?
So you were down there paying for school also yourself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide? I know you wanted to get away, but you said, I'm going to go travel. I got accepted in Tampa. I'm going to go and pay for the school myself, work to pay for the education. That's impressive. Right. So go ahead to the guy in the military. What happens from there?
So Sergeant Harl Wigfall.
The level of remembering names.
Right. So
what are you in your
I'm in my sophomore year in college now at this point.
Still at Leo.
Mm-hmm. And he I don't know, he really glamorized the military.
As he should.
And either way I was like, okay, but I'm gonna go to military.
Did you speak to anybody about this at home, or you just
no?
So at that point, you're on your own in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
So you just reporting back home whenever you call to check in.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's your world.
I was on my own, yep.
So you get the guys catch you running. Smart thing. Catch people running like in favor of your school.
He was a recruiter, yeah.
He's definitely smart with doing that. He recruits you. You say you need to go to the military. What do you do next?
I'm gonna say that I didn't do anything. So again, just remembering, and my first day on base, it was
Wait, give me a little how you got there. He tells you need to join the military. You leave right away?
No.
Okay.
No. So there's a test. There's a test that you have to take. I forget the name of it. The ASVAB. And depending on how you score, it dictates your MOS, what job you're going to have in the military. So I scored pretty decently, but my thing was, okay, well, why do I want to leave college to go do something where I have to work extra hard for? So no, at that point I kind of started maybe I really don't want to go into sports medicine. So the easiest job there was one of the easiest jobs was, or I thought it was an 88 mic. It was transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I decided to do, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to still be in school focusing on chemistry, biology, anatomy and physiology, and got to be in the military worrying about the same thing too. So I was like, yeah, let me just give my mind a break and just do something that's, not too much is expected of me, and school can still get paid for. So, but my first day there, my first day in the military reminded me of the day that I got out the plane and that cold air hit me. So
this is, I think a book should be basically based on you feeling that cold air.
That cold air.
That's a real thing.
I'm
I
gonna
love
write
that.
a book. It's gonna call Wind. Be calling
the
Wind.
Cold air. So you in the military, the cold air hits you again. What happened?
Now, mind you, I chose to go to basic and AIT in Missouri, so it was cold.
How? Once again,
I didn't. Don't ask me. I don't know.
I'm going to Missouri.
So for my MOS, that Fort Leonard Wood was the base that specialized in pumping out individuals for transportation. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I had much of a choice. And the cycle that I decided to go in on, because I didn't want it to take too much away from college or whatever. So I think that was more feasible for me. But my first day there, which I found out very quickly that if your drill sergeant knows your name, it's the worst thing on the planet. So before I went, I got my hair done. I don't laugh. Don't laugh. I had got back then it was the high ponytail with the bun, and remember you could put the pearls and the jewelry.
You was lit.
Mm-hmm. And then I had the swoop.
It's a swoop baby hair. Okay,
right.
You was ready. Swoop.
I had gotten my nails done. They were short though. I got my nails done, and what else did I do? Yes, I remember getting my hair and my nails done, and so we're on this cattle truck. So they kind of hit you with the element of surprise. So they push everybody in cattle trucks, and so with the cattle.
Meanwhile, your hair just got done.
My hair just got done. And so you don't know where you're going because on the cattle truck there are no windows, and they're just the openings at the top to let air in. So after a long while, you're like crammed in with like dozens of people in these in the cattle truck. So we're in there. So the cattle trucks stop, and you just hear like people like the drill sergeants. Well, I didn't know they were at the time. Drill sergeants, they were beating on the doors, making all this noise. And
you thinking the whole time I just got my hair done.
I was like, what's going on? What is going on? And my little friends that I had thought I had made, like, you were on your own, right? So they were like, get in formation. They open the doors, the double doors, like, get into formation. I'm like, what's formation? So
the whole time that you start thinking about that recruiter that caught you jogging.
Let me tell you something. And that's a whole nother story within itself. So when you're in basic for the first 3 to 4 weeks, there's no outside contact. He did write me a letter, which I didn't like. The military doesn't play once it comes to like fraternization. He wasn't like coming on to me or anything, but it was real crazy how like an E9 writing a private in basic training. So I got pulled into the office, like, who is this person? I was like, that's who recruited me. And they were, they opened the letter and had me. It was pretty standard, but it was like, okay, because it was highly inappropriate. But
wow.
When I did get the opportunity to write him back, I told him about his ass. Like, what the fuck was this?
Why the hell did you get me?
Why? Because so I ran, but I wasn't like a runner. So I mean, and it's one thing if like you're just running at your own pace, or like you got your Walkman on and you just you
just got your hair done.
Listen, so back to the cattle truck. So where everyone, and it seemed like everyone there, out of 300 people, everybody knew what formation was and where they were supposed to go.
The only one that didn't know what formation was.
I promise you, like everybody was in formation. And I'm just standing there like, so I'm like, there's a target on my back now.
Because you don't know formation.
I don't know. And it's like when I went to go try to stand beside somebody, they was like, move.
Get the heck away from me.
Right? So,
the reason I'm thinking to myself the whole time, because I know you and I could only imagine the foolishness you were making these people go through.
Listen, so I'll never forget her name, Drill Sergeant Thomas. She zeroed in on me and she never let up at all. So she comes over. She was like, oh, well, look at what we have here. She was like, I like your hair. And hear me now. I was like, thank you. Shut up.
Oh, my. You think you about to get a whole compliment, right?
Yo. She was like.
Foolishness.
So she was like, oh, she's like, you going out, huh? You got your nails done, hair. She was like, come here, calling the other drill sergeant guys over. Oh, what's your name? Hannah K. I want to say.
You're not that tough no more.
Listen, I was the humblest I have ever been in my life, okay?
The tough guy went right out the window.
And I remember after you just hear him laughing. Like, again, that moment brought me to when I was being bullied in high school. Like, I never forgot that. And there was another company that was running by, like they were doing a PT. She called one of the drill sergeants over. She was like, I got one for you.
You so lost.
He was like, oh, you want me to smoke her?
The level of your mind.
Listen, when I tell you that I don't even know who that drill sergeant was, but by the time I walked into the barracks, it was maybe like 2-3 hours later. I didn't all my nails were jagged. My bun I had left somewhere out on the field, and I didn't even have that much hair back then. So which I used to call them PT ponytails.
That little thing you had hanging on the top of you.
So
that's why you had to come back, huh?
I came back to the barracks and she was waiting for me. And she said, the next time that you come here and you think that you cute, I'm going to show you that you not.
So did you ever find that ponytail, that little bun?
I never found it. never found it. But she was like, go. She was like, go shower. And she said, what did she say? She says, you're on fire guard duty. Fire guard duty is, it's like everything is a lesson. So basically, you have to wake up at a certain time in the middle of the night, put your gear on, and basically you're on guard as if like you were on base. So I had to go through all of that and still had to get up like 3 hours later, put my gear on, Kevlar, everything full, down my boots, everything on, and had to be on. And the thing about it too, the drill sergeants, they would do things like, set off an alarm, do something to make sure that like you were on it,
on point.
So I remember getting in the shower, and that was the first time I like cried. Matter of fact, before that, she said to me, she was like, why don't you just go home? She said, you don't belong here. You don't fit in. Like, we don't do princesses here. She said some stuff to me. And I went in the shower and I cried.
Because everything hit you.
Like, I cried because I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? And I cried at like, who's this woman? Like, I've never had somebody talk to me like that before. In hindsight, she was building me. She was building me, and she never let up on me either. She never let up on me, to the point where when I graduated out of basic, so in the military in training, they assign you with a battle buddy, partly to teach you teamwork, and it also protects individuals. To say, for instance, like, as a female, I can't go anywhere by myself because I'm unprotected. And it also protected other officers from accusations to say, okay, well, this happened, and it really didn't happen that way. So I had a battle buddy. Her name was Evans, Private Evans. And by the time I graduated basic training out of my company of just a little over 300 individuals, we graduated number 1 and number 2.
Strong.
You would have never told me. I remember the first time we went out on a run on our, for our PT and a run. And when we ran, the Army cadences, at first running, like, it's stupid. Why we got to sing while we running? Left, right. Like, why we got to sing? And it was building your lungs so you can run these distances. So everything that she told me that I couldn't do, not only did I do it, I did it, and I surpassed anyone's expectations. And that was huge for me.
What about surpassing your own expectations?
Remember, I didn't have that. I didn't set any expectation for myself, because this was like foreign territory to me.
You just going there to get your college paid for.
I just wanted to go get college paid for. That's it. Like, I had no idea that this is what I was signing up for. Do I regret it? Absolutely not.
So do you believe that introduction, the basic training, the lay that was hard on you, you think that was also part of your preparation for where you are today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That put a discipline in me. That put a different type of discipline in me. Like I said, my grandmother would wake me up at 4 or 5 in the morning to learn how to cook and so forth.
You already started basic training,
right?
From your grandmother,
right? But the military refined it and put structure to it. To this day, I'm still up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I still work out at that time, because that's my time where I kind of get my mind together. Like, when you're up and it seems like you're the only person. Like,
the best thing. I do it every day.
Like, you get a sense of peace. There are no kids calling you. The phone
It's
isn't
about
ringing.
you at that time.
Right. So, every minute counts. And being a mom, being an entrepreneur, being in a space where everyone needs you for something or another, having that hour to hour and a half time in the morning really sets the tone for you. Like, I mean, I could go a day without it, but like if I go a couple days without getting that,
Feel disconnected.
Yeah, I'm not me.
So the military, that process you went through in the military,
Mm-hmm.
you feeling that it prepared you for where you are right now. How did so after basic training, what was next for you after that? What did you go, like what happens after that?
Basic training after graduation was AIT. So you were
What's AIT? I'm not familiar.
That's where you go to school again for the next several weeks. My training was 12 weeks after, so we did 14 weeks of basic, and then had to go back again for like another 12 weeks to learn how to drive trucks. And you didn't even learn how to drive trucks. Like you had to learn how to like break, know like engine parts and stuff. And
so you thought once again you were escaping, going to get something easy.
I was like, what? And then they teach you how to they not only teach you how to drive, but like when you look and you see like these army convoys and stuff that go on for miles and miles and miles, there's like a certain art to it. You just don't get in the truck and just start driving behind somebody. Like there's a certain structure to that. And if there's a break in the link, if somebody gets a flat, if somebody gets that convoy doesn't move until that link is fixed. Everybody's good to go. Again, teamwork like that. You don't leave your brother behind. You don't leave your sister behind. I was watching. Did you see Woman King? So when it came out, I don't like to see the only movies that I like to watch when they come out exactly maybe the day of or maybe the day after, like anything Marvel. I'm a huge Transformers fan, but when Woman King came out, I was like, I wasn't in that much of a rush to watch it, but I was like, I'll get around to it. But then it went to damn DVD so fast, I didn't get a chance
Things
to.
changed.
So on the plane ride down here, it was available, so I'm watching it, and it's real. I want to say it's really comforting to kind of see that type of mentality. Don't leave your brother or sister behind. Go back. Like there's like you don't move alone. Like you have better success if you move with someone, or you move. You bring people along with you. So in the Woman King, there was a young girl who she was very defiant. She didn't want to marry the old African guy for 20 cows.
Mm-hmm.
So the father just gave her away to this tribe that were and the women, they were the warriors, right? And her style of thinking was like, I'm not gonna leave my friend behind, but in their training was like, worry about yourself, and I remember on her last round of training to like kind of to be a part of that tribe, her friend, they were going through some thorns and the friend got stuck and everybody else was going forward and she was the only one that went back, right? She went back and helped the friend, and even like the her mentor that was grooming her kind of like went back for her, like, thought she was going to lose, but that kind of built her up to kind of just take off, and she just whoop, 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 and she ended up finishing number one. And fast forward to the end of the movie, where when her mentor herself, she was put in a position where she had the opportunity to escape, but she went back to help her, but it got her killed. But she died knowing that she had the mindset and the heart that I'm going to go back to help my sister, even if it kills me. And I think that's kind of what's missing in this day and age. Like, I'm going to help my brother up. I'm going to help my sister up because everybody's out for self. And I don't like that.
100%.
It doesn't, it's like,
well, you're not taught that also in the military. Your lifestyle, the things that you've been through from growing up home, your grandmother, and going out to the military, you were trained to support, help, be a helping hand, and grow like that. But I want to kind of stay in the military conversation because I want to see, like, how long did you stay in the military? You know, how
9 years. I was National Guard. I'm a weekend warrior. National Guard. But you know what? That does not take away from the training and so forth or whatever. But
so when you started driving these trucks, so you actually,
I can drive 18-wheelers. I can go get my CDL right now. I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, I can drive anything.
Nothing's hard to believe when you do it.
And you know, as my fiance now, he's like, "You're the worst driver in the world." I'm like,
you're like, I actually trained for this.
And he's like, "Yeah, I don't care."
Absolutely. So, and then in that process of in the military, you stayed in, like, where did you stay? Where you stayed?
So once you're finished up, you can go back. I went back to Florida, and then when I went, and that's, gosh, it's like, okay. Everything I did in my life, I did it with with something in mind, but it never really worked out that way. So I went with the intentions of paying for school, but when I went back to school, I realized that everything that I saw out there, I was like, maybe I don't want to finish school. You know,
because you learn as you go. It sounds like that you've been dealing with,
right? So I want to say when I went back to Florida and I came back to Connecticut, my mom was like, "Well, why you went through all of that?" I was like, "Listen, I could always go back to school because I know that my education is going to be covered, you know." But I want to say every year that goes by that I get more successful or do more in business, it's like, do I really need school? I think I may finish just to say that I have that piece of paper. And one of my mentors, Dr. David Johnson, he is he's Tom Brady's medical doctor. Well, he was Tom Brady's medical doctor at the time. He became my mentor. I met him at a class that I was taking for concussions some years ago. And he became my mentor. And he said to me, "Hannah, you're going to be one of the most successful people I have ever met in my life." But he says to me, he says, "What I would hate for you is to get to a door that won't open." And he says, "We know you can push it down. We know you can kick it down, but it won't open unless you slide that piece of paper underneath the door," which is like, you know, your bachelor's or something. But yeah, other than me going back to just say, "Hey, I did it," you know, that would honestly be my only reason for going back to school.
So when you came back up, you lived back in Bridgeport?
No, I went to Florida.
I mean, after Florida, military, you went back to Florida. How long you stayed in Florida for?
Maybe another semester.
So now you decided to come back home, back to Bridgeport. How was that coming back home? Was it like a sense of a failing, or was it what did you feel when you came back home?
No, it was just more so, "Well, Hannah, what the hell do you want to do?" like what do you
because it sounded like you didn't know what you wanted to do when you were in high school, even when you got out of college, or, you know, went to college, went to the military, but you were open to learn. So
right.
That was always important for you.
Absolutely. But I came home, fell in love.
Love is important.
And I want to say that, you know, after I had my first son, Isaiah, at 24. I want to say that I fell into just the raise your kid, get a job type of, you know. I want to say I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do before I was 30. I was just living life. I don't know.
I couldn't call it going with the wind. I think you were constantly trying to learn about yourself in the process of learning about life. So there was nobody pressuring you to do anything. You know, it was just like, you'll figure it out.
No, I had it. I even remember calling my mom at 23 and telling my mom, I didn't just call her. I was bawling, and I called her crying, and she was like, "Hannah, why are you crying? And I was like, Mom, I'm pregnant. She started laughing. I'm like, Mom, why are you laughing? She was like, Hannah, she says, you're working. You're living on your own. You have a man that loves you. She says, you can go to school. She's like, what? She says, girl, get off my phone.
Basically, you got it good. You don't realize what you have.
Right. But again, love my mom to death. But my mom is one of those people that's, she's pretty satisfied with what you give her.
Mm-hmm.
Go to work, man.
Right. Because where she's from,
Yeah, just, and I adopted that mindset for a little while. That was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm all right,
Wherever it is, I'm good with it.
Right. Found out quickly that, sometimes love doesn't work out the way how you think it's going to. I had to break up with my first son's father. That hurt a lot. And then not really taking the time to heal, getting involved in another relationship, and just trying to compensate for what I lost.
The void that you lost over there.
Mm-hmm. And I got pregnant again. This time I was 28. And it was like, I was honestly no different. At 28, I know people that have 4 kids already, So, but I really had to check myself. Okay, well, Hannah, what are you really doing? What do you want out of life? And I kind of fell back. I always wanted to be around my kids. So, and gosh, I never liked people telling me what to do. I would listen, but
no, I don't listen. No, for real.
I would listen, but I really didn't want to. So how can I spend as much time with my kids as possible and not have to be a slave to anyone's hours, right? Do what you did in college. Start cooking from home. So I started my catering business and I started cooking from home. I had my everyday clients, and then I started getting business accounts at People's Bank, the jail over on North Avenue, TD Bank.
I started hustling what you know.
Right. So at the time, not only was I cooking every day, I was also catering on the weekends. So I was catering bridal showers. I was catering weddings. And I was literally doing this from my kitchen in my apartment. And I remember I catered for a gentleman, Thomas Bach, out in Milford, millionaire, has a huge import, export, shipping company somewhere in Asia somewhere. And he said to me one time, he said, you know what, Hannah, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but he said, people like me that love your cooking, they're really not going to take you seriously if you don't have a brick and mortar. Right. So he only said that one time. I think 2 months later, I had my own restaurant. So I knew at the time I wasn't able to afford a whole restaurant. So I went half. There was a lady that had a Brazilian restaurant. And I was like, listen, how about you come in? We'll do a Brazilian Jamaican. So even our flag, I remember, we cut a flag in half and stitched it together. So we had the Brazilian Jamaican.
The creative boy.
And she actually taught me how to make pizza dough. So Brazilians, they eat a lot of pizza.
Never knew that.
Didn't know that either. So when she taught me, and she would eat my food, and I wouldn't really eat their food too much because they eat a lot of red meat and stuff. But when she taught me how to make the pizza, I would come up with, how you would do the ackee and sawfish? Mm-hmm. I would do ackee and sawfish pizza.
Wow.
Right? That's something, because the guys that used to come in for breakfast, they would complain, they had to have the heavy food. They couldn't grab nothing and go, because in Jamaica there's really nothing that you really grab and go.
Yeah.
Right?
Sauce for them.
Right. But the dough that you dip the ackee and sawfish in is the same dough that you make pizza.
Yeah.
Ackee and sawfish pizza. People would come, the guys, they would come in, they would get a box, get 2-3 slices, and
oh wow.
right? So that went from the ackee and saltfish pizza to the callaloo pizza, you know, right?
Right.
And then from the callaloo pizza to the jerk chicken pizza.
So you basically were creating a Jamaican restaurant with a twist.
Right. Again, so that going half on that spot allowed me to not pay full rent, full bill. So I was able to save as well. And that's how I ended up with my restaurant. Remember the restaurant that you made the menus? Right. So let you guys know that. So my very first restaurant, I called Beethoven. I forgot what the conversation was. He was like, send me the menu, whatever. Like a couple weeks later, there was a box. And this man, he created my menus, everything, my cards. I was like, oh, that's what friends are supposed to
do. No, I think for me, I could speak on that a little bit. I think for me, it was important. I was definitely excited for a friend from where I'm from doing something in that capacity because I wasn't seeing that. Most of our friends, they went to get a 9-to-5 or, a lot of people that we thought was going to be super successful went through hardship.
Right.
So the moment you called me and you told me you were doing this, and I always had my company, I knew I was able to give you a hand up. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a hand out because I know you could do whatever you're going to do, and it was just important me to bring value because I wanted to see success from them. Because at the end of the day, any friend of mine that's doing something, I want to support. I want to bring value to.
You sure you just didn't want to come get free food?
No, because I still didn't get no free food, so I don't know what you're talking about. No, but I think so. Going to that restaurant space, because I think what's very interesting for me is you believe in yourself so much that you take chances.
Right.
So it's like it's not that you're not fair. Like I don't know if it's not fair. Like you're not afraid to take that chance.
And don't ask me where I get that from.
That's what I was gonna say. Where do you believe you get that from?
I don't know. Like, I mean, the title of your show, Hustler's Testimony, it's like I'm really a hustler. Like
it's an action. It's a real thing.
Really, right. So it's like when I think, it's like, I don't know. I'm always just like, I always feel like, okay, well, you could do this. Like, why not? What's the repercussions? Just do it, I
mean, the identity of everything you're talking about, like I said, you always had to figure it out. You went to college, you had to figure out how you're going to eat. You wanted to pay for your school, you had to figure it out. What I see consistently is
me having to figure shit out.
You have to figure shit out, but you don't go hide. You don't go tucking your tail and be like, oh, I'm done. I can't do it. You come outside. Right. That first, and then what keeps on happening is you open that door and that snow.
Right.
Every time.
And the I want to say the reality.
The
reality of things hits me. So I think the wind, the cold air is a metaphor for what actually hits me.
Once you get there.
Right. So when so with the restaurant thingy, it was, I mean, and it's not that it wasn't the restaurant, the people were there. It was more so I didn't plan for like natural disaster. I didn't plan for like neighborhood power, like a car accident down the street knocking down.
But once again, you have no manual. There is no true manual. Now, of course, you could get a code, you get all these other things, but there's no true manual. And one thing I'm learning consistently, if you're talking about your story, and like I said, I know you, but I never really understood your process. And what I keep on identifying in your process is, it's like it's a good thing you don't know. And I could relate to that. So I've owned restaurants, I've done things, and I always tell people, if I knew, I might think about it. I don't know. But what we do is we go into things because of the hustle, who we are,
right,
and the survival. Like our culture, West Indian culture, we're trained to survive. We're trained to figure it out. Wherever we fall into,
figure it out.
We're gonna figure it out. And I think our family's always done that, and I think that's where you picked up from your grandmother and from your mom and from your father. Like you guys just, hey, you're gonna get sent up to the U.S. Figure it out.
Right.
There's no true map of like, oh, when you get here, you're gonna talk this way or
right.
There's no true map in us identifying of who we are. I think now people that coming into this country can say, hey, I could watch a podcast
right.
of a Jamaican girl that came from here, this country, when she was 6.
Right, but there wasn't that when
I could get an insight of how she made it. I think for me, one thing I appreciate about your story is that you are able to take chances to leave you where you are right now. But I want to talk about something in that I know for me, I want you to talk a little bit more about the process, how you champion even this. Kobe, you have a special needs son.
Right.
Is that I don't know the proper term, so but dearly is this family we're talking about here. Like, what is that process like? Because once again, was there a roadmap to how to manage that?
Oh, no.
Like, how did you figure that out with Kobe?
Okay, so while owning and operating the restaurant, I was doing 14, 15, 16-hour days.
Nuts.
Sometimes being so tired, like I didn't trust myself to drive home. I would pull out my air mattress and I would sleep at my restaurant.
Real grind.
And at the time, I had a family friend that was staying with me, so she'd take care of the kids, So I was only seeing my kids in the morning sometimes, before I leave out to go to the restaurant, and maybe late at night when they're in their bed sleep. And then, on Sundays when I'm closed or whatever. But I mean, I wasn't around a lot. And they would come and spend a lot of time with me at the restaurant though. But I remember I had gotten the flu. I was really sick. And that's something that I almost, knock on wood, I never get sick, but your body finds ways to tell you that you need to slow down, take care of yourself. And I was forced to be home for several days. And during that time, being a mom, you always anticipate the needs of your kids. But I remember distinctly just saying, wait, my son hasn't asked me for his baba. I just give it to him. Or my son, whenever he cries, he's crying, but he doesn't, he won't say mama. He doesn't, it was just hitting me over the course of a few days. So I remember calling his pediatrician and, just letting her know. And she was like, okay, make an appointment for him. And she asked me some questions like, hey, it also took him a longer time to walk. Like my first son, Isaiah, he did everything like clockwork, even before clockwork. And being from the islands, when I mentioned it to my mom, she's like, oh, the second child always moves a little slower than the first. And
whatever their remedy was.
Right. So, but I was concerned. So, he just turned 2.5 when he was diagnosed with autism. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't I wasn't like, I don't know what depression is, but I was so guilty because I said to myself, well, hey, had you been around more, you would have caught it. There was something that you would have caught,
So now you beating yourself up on that.
I beat myself up literally for about 2 months. Started the whole Birth to 3 program. But, I found myself, having to reschedule appointments because I had nobody at the restaurant. I had to, and I was a slave to my restaurant.
But the crazy thing is, because I can relate. So you went to the restaurant to get more time with your family.
Right.
You had no time with your family.
Right. Yeah. So I literally sat one day and I said to myself, you know what, Hannah? You have the ability to open another restaurant at any time. This time you need to dedicate it to your son, your children, but more so Colby. Because I think I got down to maybe my last 5,000 or 6,000 in the bank. And I asked myself, do you live off of that money for the next few months? Or do you keep the restaurant open, not knowing if you're going to double it, lose it, or whatever, So I said, you know what? I'm closing the restaurant. I need to dedicate my time to my son. And I closed my restaurant maybe about 3 months after. And I jumped full. I said to myself, you know what, Hannah, you know what a regular job is. Get a job. Matter of fact, I walked into a dental appointment and walked out with a job.
You gotta hustle.
You're
gonna figure it out.
I literally walked into that dental office and I walked out with a job. And I gave myself 5 years because when they're 2.5, they give them that preliminary diagnosis, but they're still young, So there's another test that they have to take by like 8 or 9 to really determine whether or not they're truly on the spectrum and where they are. So I said to myself, once Colby takes that test, that's when we'll be able to get a grip on what it is that he actually needs. Because it's one thing like, okay, well, they're going to diagnose him with autism. He's going to get the services. And if he does have autism, at least he started the services. But if he doesn't have it, he's no worse for the wear, right? So I said to myself, get a regular job. You're able to bring your kids to school, pick them up after school, you work while they're in school, and so forth. So I was able to, I got a gym membership during the time, because when I had my restaurant, I had also gained like 60 pounds.
You were tasting the food. Make sure it was correct.
Yeah.
We're going to go with that.
So, that's when I started working out and going to the gym. And, when you're in the gym, you're around a plethora of people, professionals and so forth. So I was speaking regularly to Jim Gentile. He's now my attorney. And Sam Wilson. He's my CPA. And those guys, we have a whole gym crew. And while we were talking, they were literally, they could have been considered billable hours, but we're on the treadmill, So
I'm gonna figure it out, boy. You will figure it out.
So I'm on I'd be on the stair climber talking to Sam, and then when I'm finished, maybe 3 days out the week, I'm on the treadmill talking to Jim, So I remember, I'm working in my job, at this time I started off as a marketer in one office. Fast forward maybe 3 years later, I'm supervising 6 offices for them. And I actually had a small lawsuit going at the time where I'd hurt my knee, like a slip and fall accident. And I remember talking to Sam, my CPA, and saying, Sam, oh my goodness, I'm going to, once this is all over with, whatever I get, 10,000, 20,000, I am just going to reopen my restaurant. And I'm like, this is, I believe that not every bad thing that happens to you is necessarily a bad thing. Like, I believe that when God blesses you, sometimes the blessing doesn't come wrapped up in a red bow, but you just have to recognize what that blessing is. And I felt that even though I have no cartilage in my in my left knee, and it still aches me a little bit when it rains and snows, that was my blessing in disguise. So I remember distinctly one day I was on the treadmill talking to Sam, and I was like, Sam, it looks like we'll be putting an end to this really soon. I made plans for my restaurant, where it was going to go. I was like, and he was like, Hannah, I've had your food. It's great. It's good. But when do you want to make your first million? Do you want to make it in 1 to 3, maybe 4 years, or the standard 5 to 10, maybe never in restaurant years? I was like,
who are you talking to?
Wait, what do I have to do? And I remember Sam telling me, he said, listen, he said, I have 4 clients. This is what they're doing. And they don't have half your brain or your intelligence. You can do this with your eyes closed. I went to his office. He gave me a rundown. I didn't even realize that I didn't even tell him that I decided to move forward. And it's like everything was coming full circle to me. At that time, he didn't realize that, over the years, I remember working for some of these agencies where they were the ones sending me out, going to work with these clients and so forth. Never, ever thinking like, oh, I could actually own a company or 2 doing that. So I walked into his office maybe about 2 months afterwards with a manila envelope. And I was like, I did it. He was like, what you did? I said, I started my company. He was like, what company? So he opens, but he was like, oh. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for office space. I said, I'm looking right over, not too far from your office. He was like, oh. And it came full circle. So I graduated, with my CNA certificate, went to college for a couple of years, majoring in sports medicine, only to run away from the field to come full circle. And that's
where it all got started.
That's where it all got started. And that's where I am now.
So, and there's so many different pieces in that transition that I just want to grab. So, somebody gave you insight of an industry that you could reach success faster.
Right.
Was that the first time you really started getting a roadmap? Not even a roadmap, just like, hey, look into this.
Right.
Because it sounded like everything else you just fell into.
He reminded me, he said, Hannah, remember, you said that you want more time. He said he pointed the downsides of the restaurant. He said, do you really want to go back into being away from your boys? Do you really want to go back to being at your restaurant 6 days a week, 10 plus
So
hours?
you wanted to buy back your time.
Right. And I could have bought a franchise. But again, they came with rules. Like I couldn't do things my way. Like, yeah, I still have oversight, but it's different when you start your own. And I did it. The reason why I started my own company were for two reasons. One, totally didn't like the rules, didn't like the fact that I would still have a boss, kind of, sort of, right? Because I'd be following a franchise, their model, their structure. But if I started my own company from scratch, I'm able to franchise my company. So either way, I'm never gonna have to have a boss ever again, So I don't know if I fully answered your question with regards to Colby.
Well, I think for me, it's just what kind of information I wanted you to share with people is having a unique, a special child. How do you manage that? And in the insight you could give people, because when you find out, what happens from here?
So I want to say, having a child with special needs, like my son, he's autistic. Having a child with special needs has taught me a level of patience that I never knew that I needed for being in the industry that I'm in. So I court, nothing in our lives happens by accident. And I think God needed to bless me with a child of this magnitude to prepare me, because before, I have no patience with nothing or anyone. We all have our flaws. We don't get to pick or choose our flaws. And I'm always go, go, go. I don't have patience. I don't slow down. But with him, I have to do things at his pace. And then when you're dealing with employees and you're dealing with other entities that make your business go, everyone's not moving at your pace. You understand? So having a son that moved at his own pace slowed me down to the point where, and guess what? I don't get anxiety or I don't get riled up if I see people are moving at a certain pace anymore. I'm able to roll with the punches because I now have a patience that has been instilled in me now for over 10 years. And it's practiced and it's worked upon every day because, he tries. he tries. But I realize that he is a special type of individual. And not because he's my son either. It's like I pray that I live to see the day where I find out what his thing is. Because everyone, whether people choose to realize it or not, everyone has a thing. And because I see that he's very detail oriented, he has a memory out of this world. But we haven't kind of pieced together what he's good at yet. And I'm living to see that day, because once he figures it out and I hone in on it,
you're gonna lock in.
We're gonna lock. Like a shark locks in on their prey.
Heavy in the locking in. And I think I have some other friends that have special need children, and of a group of people I know that their kid is an artist, and the detail and the drawing and the unbelievable. And I love seeing this, and I connect with him. He always hug me, always want to talk to me about things.
They are the most loving.
Yeah, they're loving, absolutely.
They're so loving to the point where he's like, "Mommy, excuse me, I want hug." And I better give him his hug.
Absolutely.
I bet. And he literally makes me, if I come home and I'm wound up, one hug from him. And it's like he can tell. And it's just not like a hug, like how you hug, girl, or he's hugging me, and it's like I feel
The comfort.
yes. So he's hugging me for the comfort, but he has no idea how much he is comforting me. I feel blessed beyond measure to, like, yes, I get it. It can be challenging, at times. But once you realize the responsibility that comes when God chooses you to take care of another individual. And I want to say that not everyone is built to take care of a special needs child. I'm a person that never gives up. I'm always figuring it out. Like, I don't take no for an answer. That's the kind of parent that he needs. Like, I'm going to figure it out no matter what it is. I'm not going to accept any diagnosis just because a doctor tells me. I'm going to get a second, third, and fourth opinion. I honestly, I can't even imagine if Colby was someone else's child. Like, he was designed for me, and I don't take that lightly at all.
I think it's impressive because historically, what I hear from you is life prepares you for the next chapter.
Absolutely.
Often. And it's a routine for me. What I constantly keep on seeing from you is life hits me. I then get in line, whatever I have to do. Mm-hmm. There's no option of what I like to do. Now I just get prepared for it and I handle it.
Right.
And you take that into your business and you take that into life, but then also going into another thing, life punch you in your face real hard. You lost a husband. How was that experience? Boom. No, I think it's a real thing. I really want you to share, because once again, your story is going to give insight now.
Right.
Of what happens in the real world.
So, Wobbs and I, he wasn't my husband.
Oh, sorry.
Lost
your
okay.
partner.
I lost my partner. But it just goes to show you that life be lifing.
Life be lifing.
Life be lifing. And whether you're ready for it or not, as you said, it was a punch in the face because it happened so suddenly. And, we've all experienced loss. Like, I've been to funerals before. I've had, friends, we lost Tammy, we lost, mm-hmm. friends that we grew up with and so forth. But to actually be there as life is slipping away and there's nothing that you can do. It's different.
Was that one of the first moments you realized you weren't in control?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember.
Please bring her some tissue.
I remember, like, after performing CPR and chest compressions bringing me back to the healthcare field. I feel like if I didn't have that training, it would have been worse, But thank you. Realizing that, Hannah, there's nothing you can do. I literally looked up to the sky and I called
And that's
out.
not normal for you.
No, listen, I'm very spiritual. I'm heavy on God. I put God in everything. I start my day off in prayer. I end my day in prayer. I realized that, and even Wobbs' passing, it lets me know how insignificant we are. Like, how we're so small compared to how big God is, and it's moments like those where you're just like I would have given anything for him to take another breath, or even at least to say goodbye. Even that has shaped, who I am. This happened almost 2 years ago. It put a certain level of, or certain dose of reality in me that reminded me that we don't have a lot of time when we're here. Moment. And any moment. And even, I did some therapy. I really think I should do some more, but
just a little hint. I think you might need to do a little bit more. No, I think you're living as therapy also.
But it lets me know that like people really be playing around like we're here for a long time. And he was only 44.
It's a little different.
We don't have a lot of time. So we really, and it's like his passing let me know that it opened a door to how unprotected my children were. Like, I have, life insurance and so forth, but I also have a special needs son. I didn't realize he needed a different type of coverage. So there were things that I wouldn't have known or learned if he didn't pass. I feel like
getting prepared.
I was prepared. I have life insurance. I have, but things like, even like my business account, you can't leave your business account to anybody. To anybody. You can't have a beneficiary on your business account. Your business has to be put in a special trust so that, and none of that was in place. So my business account, like I have a personal account, but most of my money goes to my business account. Lord forbid if anything would have happened to me, like that money would have been like state's property, and like, I mean, that's not cool. I got 2 kids, but in everything, there's always a lesson.
That's Matt, that's the title. In everything, there's always a lesson.
Always a lesson. Wob's passing showed me how temporary people are, how if you love someone and you have the opportunity to tell them that you love them, do it. It let me know like small ignis, and I remember some years ago, and I pride myself. I'm like the stone queen. Like I will walk past, and this, I will ignore you. Like I don't have to speak to you at all. I remember I took such pride. One time, maybe I think like 4 years ago, we had gotten into an argument. It was so stupid. But I walked past him for 11 days and didn't speak to him. Didn't speak to him at all. And our mind, again, just sometimes thinking, like when I think about like his passing, it's like I would give anything to have those 11 days back. It's not important the disagreements that we have with each other, with our loved ones. It's not important. That whole, don't go to bed mad. It's real. Because you don't have to wake up the next morning. Like we're not in control of that.
So you say you were also giving him CPR and all those things. How do you rebuild from that type of hardship? Like, how do you, like, what's some of the steps that you started doing? How do you keep on building?
Like in what term? Like, what do you mean? Like my personal life?
No, altogether personal. Like, because you gotta look at it. It happened sudden. I think you guys were, however it happened. I don't want to throw like it's nothing like how it happened, but life happens.
Right.
Now you have to get back to your everyday life. You have children. You have life. You have business.
Right.
Like, how do you move on?
The same way how I've moved on from everything else that's happened to me. I don't even think I didn't even take a day off work. I walked into he passed that Friday. I went into the office on Monday and my staff was like, "Why are you here?" And it was my thing, like, I have to keep working.
That's your story.
I have to keep working. And that's helped.
So healing is an ongoing thing.
I'm still healing. I even, I've been lucky enough, and with me still healing, with me still healing, there's a certain hardness to me a little bit.
A lot of it. Carry on.
But what God knows what we need better than we do. And even months after he passed, I just wanted to be left alone. But with me being left to my thoughts, like, you don't even want to know. Like,
trust me, I'm a Virgo. I know. We overthink. Going to get a sandwich.
You overthink. You just kind of like, well, what if? Like, I didn't realize how much I was really driving myself, like, to a point, like and no, looking at me, you wouldn't be able to tell this at all. And you made me mess up like my makeup.
I got more.
You got more?
Don't worry, I got it.
Thank you. But
Told you.
Looking at me, you would never know. And I just have this thing about, and I think it's most strong women, we have this thing where the world will never know when we're hurting. You know.
But you know one thing, let me speak on that, because I think this is probably the year that strong women need to let their real identity out, because you guys think the world don't know. Mm-hmm. We see it through you guys all day long.
Really?
100%, especially a guy like me. So you guys keep on creating this image, but you're really hurt. Because once again, I know Hannah K. Hannah, this identity that you guys create because you're a strong woman. Mm-hmm. If I didn't know Hannah K, I would never talk to Hannah.
Oh, really?
Because you're a strong businesswoman, aggressive, da-da-da-da-da-da.
I'm assertive, not aggressive.
Nice, cute. But with me knowing that, I think for me, I'm always going to go back to appreciating Hannah K, because I know the hardship of where she started, and every time she got punched in the face, she gets back up. Her story is like, I'm going to figure it out. I remember the day you called me about I'm doing this restaurant. I wanted to give you more tools to keep on figuring out, because that's what you do. That was normal for you.
And I told you to mind your business.
And clearly it wasn't only mind my business. It was like, figure this out, but call me, give it 2 weeks, whatever it was. But I think for me, what I constantly keep on seeing consistently with you and other strong women that I know that's in my life and I know around is you guys create this image, and that image doesn't really match often when you go back to who you guys truly are. You know, you're a loving, like the way I see you deal with Kobe, the way I know you have a special needs son, which is an amazing son, is what the world needs from you. But you guys create this image of assertiveness and this and that. And once you guys realize your special power is the way you treat Kobe, you won't impact like you need to.
Well, I hear you.
Of course you do.
But hear me out.
There goes Super. She's back.
Hear me out, right?
Uh-huh.
The way I told you, the way how I treat Colby, it's a testament to how I treat my employees. Mm-hmm. So I kind of disagree with you when you say, like, I don't like, yeah, granted, I'm not on Front Street, you know, showing people how raw my insides are because I'm hurt, or I was hurt, well, still hurting some days, is I believe in treating people fairly, mm-hmm. And treating people well. Mm-hmm. Even though a lot of them, they don't appreciate it. But guess what? It's not for them. It's for me. Because ultimately, I have to give an account when I'm no longer here on this earth. You
ever thought some people don't know how to appreciate?
Absolutely.
Or they don't really, a lot of people just truly don't understand the how to most of the things that they're going through in life. And I don't think, I'm saying for you to soften up or to be this other person that you're not. But I'm hearing the story, and what I know and what the world don't know watching this is the way you treat Kobe is your magic. And that's going to be the magic that's going to take you to a $10 billion company.
Right. But I also told you that if the way how I treat Kobe is indicative of how I treat my staff, then I want to say that I'm halfway there.
I'm
Like,
not saying you're
because-
not. I just want to give, and this is not saying that you're not doing these things or I'm going against what you're doing. It's none of those things. But I just like hearing the story, and I also watch how you started. It's a different energy when you talked about Kobe. It's a different insight. It's a different.
I'm a mom. What do you mean?
No, you're a mom of a great, amazing child that deals with all these extra gifts that God gives him.
Right.
So watching you get into that part, and just like I said, I know Hannah K. You know, I don't know, people don't probably not know you the way that I know you personally because we grew up together.
Right.
And in the business world, like I said, none of this stuff is negative that I'm saying. I think you've triumphed and you've really created something special with your company and the success that you're having with your companies and where you're coming from. I just believe what I believe your secret sauce is how you treat Kobe. It's gonna double, triple, 10x.
That's a part of it. I won't dispute that.
I think it will.
But again, I love God and I read the Bible, but once it comes to like quoting scripture and stuff like that, I'm the worst. But,
I get it. I know what you're saying.
But we were put on this earth to be of service to each other.
100%.
And I think a lot of times people forget that, right? You're supposed to love your brother, be kind to your enemies as well. I mean, as hard as it is sometimes, but when you own a company and you have employees, your treatment of them determines your success, right? And my motto that I live by is that I am not just the owner of the company. I am the company because before I got employees, I had to do their job. And because I know what it's like, I will never treat them any less than how I would want to be treated. And also being in an industry where I want to say that it's different when like you're in a tech industry or whatever, media. When you're in a service industry and like, even though it's a company and it's a business, I'm making money, but you have to look at it. I'm creating a way for people to pay their bills and take care of their families. Like, even though some of them may not use their money for that or whatever, their salaries for that. That's the premise of me being an employer. I'm helping to help people to survive on a daily basis. I am, and not only that with my employees, the community of individuals that I affect on a daily basis by me supplying the jobs to these people to be able to provide the service. I'm providing a service. I'm in another hand taking care of another set of, God's people that he's created, so yes, some of my success will come from how I, the side of you, the mama bear side, the soft side, of how I deal with my son, but also me being able to recognize that the profession that I've chosen, it's not only a profession, it's a service, and it's a service.
Separates a lot.
Right. So I want to say that it's kind of like, it's like I have both sides of the spoon because I'm helping my employees, but in turn employing them to provide service to individuals that need that help, that need that assistance, that is also providing a service to God's people. So I believe that as long as I keep that cycle going and I treat my staff, my employees, with the respect that they deserve and help them even outside of a salary, that's where my success will come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't question it at all. And I think you've proven that. This is what you deal with every day. And the superpowers that I'm talking about, I think those are just icing on the top. And you treating your people good every day is always going to it's going to do what you're doing now, ultimately. So I just want to know before we wrap up, because I think it's been a great conversation. I think people get an insight more of your experience in life and your constant growing. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to see Hannah in the next couple years?
You mean besides being on a beach?
Oh, gosh, here we go.
With a nice cold margarita?
Yes, that too.
I want
business and personal.
Okay. Business, I I want to, well, I'm in the process now of scaling my business. My business, it's not, I'm not confined to only four walls, right? So just like I mentioned earlier, that I'm able to start my own and, build off of that. That's in the works, as well as training and coaching for huge developers that that want to do what I'm doing on a bigger scale. That's fine. Pay me to do that all day. That's fine. So
And when you say what you're doing, what are you doing? For people that don't know, I think we're talking like everybody knows exactly what you do.
Right. So the structure that I've created for my agency, say I have two locations, one in Bridgeport, one in Stanford. The structure that I've created, and the funny thing, I didn't realize that these huge companies, they pay attention to the smaller companies. And that's one thing that I don't think I'll ever do. Maybe like in the next few years, and I'm not gonna sell my brand, because I know, just like how you see how valuable it is, I know how valuable it is. So I'm gonna hold on to it for a little bit. But you have these huge developers that are building assisted living communities, independent living, and if there's this company that's doing it on this level, what can she do for us? So I have 3 contracts that are coming into fruition for 2024 all the way through 2029 that are they're huge. And what I will be doing is I will facilities that are 200, 300 bed facilities, I will be supplying the structure for how they run their facilities based off of my business. And that's for the business. For personal, I want to see myself being complete. I think the man that's in my life now is nothing short of just God, because he met me at a time where he should have been running for the hills.
I think I still tell him to run every time.
Right. He's not,
run, Nate, run.
Right, and he's not going anywhere. So I know. So I know he's supposed to be here. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of me.
Yo, so many jokes come out of that one that. Oh man.
No, he's.
You need a strong man for a strong woman like yourself.
He's resilient, but he's also sensitive as well. I thank God for him. God knew that I needed someone strong. I needed someone to protect me, because as strong as I am, it feels good knowing that I have someone that, like how you have, I've heard, women say, oh, my husband don't play about me. This man, he does not play about me at all. Thing. And he lets me be me. And he's not intimidated by me. I think, I inspire him, and I make him want to be a better person, business-wise, spiritual-wise,
It's good balance.
Right. So I want to say that, every day you learn something in every day, but where he met me, he made it safe again. He made it safe for me to be open, to love, because I was in a place where, God, if you can take the man that I thought I was going to marry, and God gave me everything that I needed, and I'm not compromising on anything. I don't feel like I'm compromising on it. I mean, he's not perfect. He get the hell on my nerves a lot.
You get on his nerves also. I just want to let you know if you didn't know. Just in case you didn't know.
That's what y'all was talking about when I wasn't here?
Clearly you get on his nerves. I don't got to tell Nate, I know the pain you're going through.
But no, I'm not compromising on anything.
Dope.
Yeah. I have a love and I have a partner who's sure.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, I'm not compromising on anything.
Well, Miss Hannah, you don't have to compromise.
Might have to compromise on my friends though in the future going forward.
Please get rid of me. I've been trying to get you to get rid of me for over 20 something years. Please get rid of me. Doesn't work, but no, but I think I want to tell you thank you for sharing your story. Your story will impact many. And I told you you're going to cry. Goodbye. Goodbye.